My name is Aviv, and I'm going to be showing you how to create a web application with Django using openweathermap API. So we are going to be getting the current weather condition of a particular city when we enter it into our form. So we need to get started here. Let me show you what we'll be building. I already have it on my local server. So in this our simple form, when we enter a city name, it gives us back the current weather condition of that city. So currently I'm in Lagos, Nigeria, so I'm going to enter Lagos, and let's see what happens. Check. So you see we have weather conditions, clouds, weather description, country, city, temperature, and this is exactly what we are going to be building, guys. So let's get started on that. We can close this now, then let's get started on openweathermap.org. You can just enter this URL and visit the website. So you see we are on the openweathermap.org. So we want to use their API, so we need to click on this API. So you see we have a lot of options we can juggle up. We have the current weather data, hourly forecast, but we are not concerned about all this now. So this is the one we want to go for, the current weather data. So if you check the API documentation, so you see to make an API call, you need to copy this URL, and you can see at the end their endpoint, and we have our queries. We have the query for city name, the app ID, which is your API key that is going to be provided to you by OpenWeather for you to be able to create your own URL and be able to make calls with that API. So if you look here by city name, you can call by city name. If you read through this, so we want to, what the web app we want to build, we want to be calling or getting the data using just the city name. So for us to do that, that means we'll be needing this API URL. So you see we have to provide two parameters, which are the city name and the API key. Currently now, if we check this, let's copy that, and let's paste it in our address bar. Then if we cancel this app ID, then the city name, let's just enter Lagos like I did before, then press enter. So you see it's returning a message and telling us invalid API key, please see then the URL. That is because we haven't provided an API key to authorize this request. So to make this request, we need to get our own API key, which we are going to be using to make the request. So we want to go back to the OpenWeatherMap website to get our API. And in order for us to get our API key, what we need to do, so we need to go to API. Then first we need to sign in. So I'm going to enter my email here. If you are not already a user, you need to register, but I'm currently signed up, so I'm just going to log in. Oh, saying invalid. Okay, let's see that again. Okay, now I'm signing successfully. So now you can see I'm provided with the tabs where I have services, API keys, billing plans, and all. So I will navigate to my API keys. Let me save that. So you see I have an API key already, guys. So this is what you need to do to get your API key. And you can see this is the default API key you get, and you can always change that by clicking on generate. Then you get a new API key in case of security, or you just need to like change this API key. But for now I'm just going to work with this API key, the default API key. So let me copy that, and we are going to go back to, now let's go back, let's just paste this somewhere. Yeah, let's paste this in the address bar. Let's duplicate this tab so we can go back to our API and copy the API URL again so we can use it to make our request. So you see, if I copy that now, copy that, so I'll go back here. So let me paste here. So instead of this API key, I'm just going to cancel this out. That is it. Then the city name, I'm going to cancel it out and enter Lagos again to make my request. So let's enter that. So you see, guys, now we are getting the results back. Isn't that so cool? You can see if you click on this arrow key, you see clouds, you see we have back our results, just the same, about the same results we got when we were testing from our form. So to integrate this into our web application, we need to do some coding, which is going to like take us to Django. So guys, let's move forward. So I'm going to close this for now. So what I want to do now is to take note of, you can just copy your API key and the URL, copy it somewhere, maybe in a notepad, since you'll be using it later. So we can just, so now to get started on creating our application, what we need to do is we need to set up our project for building that web app. And we are, in this case, we are going to be using Django. We are going to be using PyCharm as our editor. So before then, we are going to open our terminal. In your case, you can use your Windows terminal, you can use your Git bash, depending on what you want. But for me, I'm going to be using cmdar. So I'm going to navigate to my desktop, since that's where I want to have my folder for my web app project. So I'm going to do cd. So I want to make sure I'm in my desktop. Okay, let's see where we are now. Okay, I'm not currently in my desktop, so I need to navigate to users. I can just clear that now. Then cd users HP users desktop. Oh, sorry. cd think users /HP/desktop, like so. So now we are in our desktop root. So guys, this is where we want to start our project. So what we are going to do, we are going to make a directory folder using makdir, and let's name our folder, let's just name it weather. Let's make a Django weather. So if you ls that now, you see we have Django weather. So we can clear that now. So let's enter that folder so we can start installing Django weather. So now we are in our project folder. To get started first, guys, we need to install Django for use. But before we do that, we want to create a virtual environment. Now we are going to use python -m venv. So we are creating our virtual environment, install our Django, and make sure you set our virtual environment. So you must be wondering where this venv script and activate came from. If you ls, you would see that we have our venv folder. Then if you do cd venv, then you ls start, you see we have our script, and inside our script we have activate. So that was just what we did. So we can go back now, then we ls, let's see what we have. So we are back where we were. So cls to clear that, and now we want to start installing Django. Now we have Django installed. So what we want to do next is, let's now create our project folder. So we have something called Django admin start projects. We can name our project weather, then full stop to place it in our root folder. Then let's create our app folder also. Django admin starts app. I can name it app weather. So let's ls that to see what we have. Now you can see we have our manage.py, project weather, app weather, and our VM. So that is all we need to start working on our project. So we can clear that now, then we can exit our terminal. Now that I have my PyCharm open, you can open up your PyCharm or Visual Studio Code, whichever one you're using. So I'm going to open, I want to open root folder for our project for the weather app. So I'm in my desktop. So now I have my Django weather. I'm going to click on that, then press OK. Now I have my project folder in my PyCharm editor. So what I want to do now is to click on this arrow for the project folder, which we called project weather. So we are going to open up our settings.py, because we need to include here this hub that we created, this folder for our application. So we are going to include it here. So we do app with then put a comma, make sure that is saved, guys. Since we have that, so we can close up this now. So what to do next, if you look in our project folder, we have urls.py, which we are going to be using to. So we want to open up that now, urls.py. So you see what we have. Let's open this up. We have our path for our admin. Let's clear this up so we can save that. So if you see, we have the path for our admin. So if you go to our local hosts, before we go to our local host, let's open up our terminal. We want to start our server, but before then we need to activate our virtual environment, which we did earlier. So we do venv-scripts-activate. So you see it's in parentheses, which means it has been activated. So in our project, you see we have down here, we have manage.py, which we are going to use to run our server. So we'll say python manage.py run server. So what we are going to do now is to create the path for our web application in our PyCharm. So let's go back to PyCharm, then we go to our project. So you see what we have now is just the default path for our admin. So let's create another path. So before we do that, we need to make sure we have views, something to render on that path. So we can just define a simple function and we can call it let's give it a request as parameter, so we can return a simple HTTP response. So currently we need to import our HTTP response, so we do that by saying from Django .http import HTTP response. So we can use that now. So we've created our simple function which is going to render this on the web page. So we need to include that path now so we can use it. So we can simply say, let's copy this. We're going to do something similar. So we need to include this app weather for our application. We need to include the folder or path here. So we use a module called include. Then we are going to include that path. Let's clear this out first too, so we have a better view of what is happening here. So we can save that. So we want to, in this app weather, I already create a new URLs file, and if you look at the urls.py, you see it's empty. We don't have anything there. So from our project URLs, this is what we have here. Our project URLs, we can just copy everything we have here. So let's paste it in our app weather. Sorry about the straight word sounds. So we can cancel include, since we are not using it in our app weather. Then we can also remove the admin. So now we can also remove the admin from this place. So what we need to do now is to create an empty path, since we already have the path here. So once this app weather is visited, this is what we want to render in this view. So in our app weather, we have an empty path which is going to take them to the default path we have in our project URLs. So all we can do here is to import our views from so we can use our views here. So we can easily say views dot the function we created earlier, which is on page. If you look at it, we have on page here, which is going to return this message on the web page once we visit it. So we can save that. Let's now go to our terminal. Let's first clear what we have here. So we can say python manage.py. So now let's check it out in our web browser. So let's go visit our, so you can see over here we have app weather and we also have admin. Let's now visit the app weather URL and see what we have. So you can see we are getting our message which says this is a new app. That means our application is working, so we need to proceed on doing the next things. So let's drag this down. Now in our case, we want to work with a form, so instead of just returning a simple message that says this is a new app in our render, we want to create an HTML form, and we want this to return the HTML form instead, so we can be able to enter our input and create our logical application. So to do that, instead of response, we can do import render. Sorry, can say we already have render here, so we don't need to import that again. So instead of just this, we can return render, but currently we don't have HTML template or website that we want to render, so we need to visit getbootstrap.com so we can get some forms to work with. Getbootstrap.com. So you can just get started, click on this, then you can start working on your project. Just check here, you should have forms. So you can use any of these forms for your project, but in my own case I'll be using my own forms. So for you, you can just decide to use any of these and configure it to work with your application. So I'll be using the form I created earlier so we can make this tutorial faster. Alright guys, in my previous app I already have a folder called template. If you open it, there's another folder called front end, and if you look at it, there's a home.html form there, and this is what I'm going to copy. Let's copy that, then I'll paste it into our Django weather folder that we are currently working with. So I want to paste it in the root folder, paste, like so. Now we have our template. You see, we have the front end, and also I want to copy another thing. If I go back to weather, you would see I also, if you look in here, if you look in our, so I have something called static. I created this earlier. Then the CSS, you can see I have just images there, and my CSS file that I named, and the Bootstrap CSS that was downloaded. So if you're in working in Django, you always want to make sure you create the static and see a template folder to work with. So just paste it in the way I'm doing it, so that's the way to go. So I'm just going to paste that in here too, my app weather folder, so that's where I'm putting my static file. So I'll paste that in here. So now I have everything I need, the HTML and the CSS file to work with. So I'm going to close up that and open back my PyCharm. So if you look now, everything should be there. So you want to make sure you are placing your static file in the right place and your CSS file. You can decide to do it the way I did, but just make sure that your template folder is in your root folder of your project folder. So moving forward, you see I have template here. If you open up weather, you see I have static here, and my static I have my CSS, and that's what I'm going to be working with. So let's open our template. So you see what I have here. So you see I've loaded everything here, you can see. So I'll just cancel what I already have. Don't worry about all this. I'll be, you see the link below, so you can just copy out the code. So I'm making my HTML static and it's doing nothing right now. So I'm just going to walk you through what I currently have in here. So if you look at this, I'm linking this to the static folder, and you see the CSS and the name of my personalized CSS, and also I'm doing the same thing for my Bootstrap, which is also located in the static folder. So these are my CSS files, I've loaded them in. So look, if you look at this, I have a simple form and it's wrapped in a container and a row div. So if you look at it here, I have an empty div here too, but that's nothing to be worried about. So this is the form, this is where our focus is. From here then to here, you can see we have a form which we name form signing, and the method we are going to be using for that is get. We also have something called post, but in this case we are trying to get some data, fetch some data, from making an API call. So in this case we won't be using post, so we are using a get method to get that data we want. And also we have the form where you are going to enter a city name. Let me render this better so you can see what is happening. Soft trap. Okay, so you see the input type is going to be text. The name we are going to use to get what the user enters to be able to fetch the data they want is going to be location. You can name yours anything. You can just name it city, you can name it wherever you like, it wouldn't matter at all. And we have classes, form control, text enter. We have a placeholder that says enter a city name, and we have required to make sure the user does not enter an empty city name. So that's all. And we also have a button that's going to submit the inputs. You need to have this type is equal to submit. So that is all we have in our HTML file, and the CSS was just for some customizations to give it the look that it currently has. So that's it, guys. Now we need to be able to view this home.html file. So our home.html file is in this template folder. This is our template. This is where we have inside the front end, and we have home.html. So if we do something like this, if we say app weather, we have first templates / front end / home. So you see this doesn't work, page not found, because we have not rendered it. So that is what we need to do now. Now what we need to do first is this template folder that we created, we need to include it in our settings.py. So let me close some of this. So I'm going to come here, close this so you can see better. Project. So in our project folder, once open up settings.py, if you look over here, you see we have template. So in this template, in the directories, we want to add template here. So that's what we need to do for now. So we've added our template. Automatically it should see whatever we have there, which is front end, home.html, and any other thing included there. So that's it. So we need to configure our URLs and as well as our views. But first we need to configure our views. So we're going to go to our app folder. So we have views. So we said before, instead of rendering just a simple, this is a new app, we are going to render our home.html, and in our home.html is located in a folder called front end in our template folder. But we don't need to include templates since we've already included it in our settings.py. So it's going to see the template folder when we load the server. So front end, then we have home.html. So let's open that now. Then we are going to add request here. So if we try that now, it should work fine. So now we have our front end rendering properly. So now you can see if we enter our city, it's not doing anything now. You can see the query has been set, and that's because we haven't created our logic for it to perform the way we want to. So you can see it's printing it out here in the console, the query that we made. So all I can just do is we can create logic for this, and we can say if city in requests that gets, then you can say city equals to city equals to requests that gets city and also we can now say we can define our URL here. So if you remember when we're getting our API key, we add a URL that we use to print out this. So guys, you can get this plugin and use, it's called Json Viewer Pro. It is a very useful tool, so you can get that to have this kind of view I'm getting here. And also we can easily get our path here using this extension. So what we are going to do now is to copy this URL with the API key together. So we are going to go back and paste everything here, so you can see. But currently what we have is a default city name. We don't want that, so we are going to clear that. We are going to make it empty for now. So let's wrap this in quotes. Then good. So this city is going to be passed here. That is, the request.get is going to get whatever city name the user is passing in the form. So we are going to pass that city here. So you can see it's just rendering as a string now. So we need to format it to be able to get the results properly. So now that we have that, if you print this now, let's print the URL and see what happens. So let's go back to our app. So we are going to let's just clear this first. So we are going to enter that city name, check. So let's go back to our PyCharm, and you see what we are getting is just the URL. That means we haven't formatted this to work the way we want it to. So what we need to do in this case before printing anything is to now let's create a variable. We're going to x is equals to requests dot get. Now you can see this request dot get, let's use it to get the URL. We need to get the URL. We need to fetch this URL from the using this HTTP request method. So we need to use it to get it. So it's going to be requests, not requests. Now you can see requests is underlined in red, so we need to import it to be able to use it. You can say import requests like so. So let's run it again. So instead of URL, we're going to print x, and let's run our app again. Let us check, and let's check here. So you can see we are still not getting the result, and this is because this city name we are getting should be requests. I made that mistake. That's a silly mistake. So let's run our app again. Let's check. Now you see, you say module request has no attribute get. Okay, this is just so let's print. So you see we are just getting this, and what we need to do in this case is we need to format it into a dictionary, and we can simply say x is equals to x.json. So we are using the x to call this JSON method. This should be so we need to format this x as a dictionary, so we are going to call it with the JSON method, like so, x.json. So it's going to give us a JSON response. So let's run that again. Let's check. Let's check. So you see now we are getting our results back. Now what we need to do is to print it. Like we need to get it in the front end. We are already getting it in the back end, and that's not what we want. We want to get it on the front end too. So what we can do is to create a context. So we can just say context equals to, so we can say what we want to get is the weather. So if you look back in our, you can see we have something called weather. So if you click on it, then you copy path, then let's paste that path in here. So you're going to create square brackets, quotes, then you paste it in it. So we have it pasted there. So we need to pass this context in our HTML. So you can see I already have on the description, so we can call it weather. So let's pass that and let's run our app again and see what happens. So I'm going to pass in that name again, check. Okay, we are not getting that. Let's check why that is happening. We passed with and let's check our views. Okay, that is because we are currently not returning the response, so we need to return the response. So we need to return this response if the condition is met. So we're going to paste that. Then we are going to pass in this context here. So let's run that again. So we should be able to get our result now. So let me pass that city name again and check it. So you see, what we are having is just returning the same thing, and that is because we didn't pass X before this. So we need to use this X, that is the results we are getting. Then it's going to find where weather is and return the value to us. So let's run that again. So let's enter our city name, Lagos. Then you see we are getting the values for our city. So we have the result here. Now what we want to do is we want to, let's check here. Let's say we wanted to get only the description, so we can just copy the path. Then we'll go back to here. Then we can just pass in the value here. So you can see if we run it like this, we are not going to get the result. So let's try that first. Let's try that here. So like so. Let's pass in our. So you can see we having key error. So to solve this in Python, what we need to do is we are going to wrap everything around square brackets. So let's remove this full stop. Let's wrap it like this, wrap it like this, and like so, like so. So like that. Let's run it again. There it goes. So you see we have only the description, and it's obvious that our app is working. If I pass in another city like London, so you can see we are getting a different results. So that's our app, and you can make this as extensible as you want. You can also create, just you could get something else. You could just get the temperature or whatever you need, and you could just style. You could also style your results. You could just create a class for this, and create your stylings, and you can have as many responses or context as you want, and it all depends on how you want the application to work. So you can add a comma to that. You can add a comma to that and just do as much as you want. So that's it, guys. I really hope this video was helpful, and I would really like to get your feedbacks on what I can do better, and I'm really glad to have made this video. Alright, cheers guys, thank you.